these are going to be focused around protein in our current situation. And the first one is going to echo some of the things that Alice and Nikki have already brought up, the consumer trend of immunity. So the consumer trend of focusing on immune health was already growing, but now it's on an accelerated path. Whey proteins are really well known by consumers for benefits associated with exercise, recovery, skeletal muscle tissue support. But whey proteins are starting to become a bit more recognized by the general consumer for their immunological support. Proteins that are high in essential amino acids, like whey proteins, can help support the body's immune system. Obviously, the immune system is a very complex system, but whey proteins' high bioavailability can support the health of immune cells, for starters. There are certain fractions within whey proteins that have specific functions. Alpha-lactalbumin and glycomacropeptide, or casein macropeptide as it's also known. They play valuable roles in immune function. These are two major fractions within sweet whey, so whey from cheese make. Whey protein can also contain other bioactive fractions like lactoferrin and immunoglobulins. Lactoferrin plays a number of roles, but it's part of the innate immune system, and it really is critical at binding and absorbing iron and then taking that iron away from harmful bacteria in some cases, so it binds it up. So in review, protein is starting to be recognized and marketed by both ingredient suppliers and brands for its benefits from an immune standpoint, which follows the trend that Nikki mentioned. The next thing we're going to talk about is more around consumer usage and the difference between using protein at home versus using this away. Now, some of this data is from the COVID survey, but ultimately, consumers are spending significantly more time at home. We all are, but still need to consume additional protein based on their goals. And if you're working out at home, you're still going to be trying to consume that extra supplemented protein. What we're seeing in some of our reports is that some consumers are starting to get their protein from their local grocery store as opposed to mega stores or online. That's not to say that those are decreasing overall, but we're seeing a slight shift there. My gut feeling is that many consumers are trying to mitigate the amount of stops they're making out in public, their exposure to the public, and so they're trying to get kind of a one-stop shop at their local grocery store. Now, RTMs remain a staple for home usage. As Nikki mentioned, we have kind of a decrease in that travel and need for convenience products. RTMs are probably the most versatile in terms of being able to use for a home shake, a quick beverage, baking, cooking. You can incorporate it into a number of different scenarios, plant-based or dairy-based, whatever the consumer is looking for. Many consumers are still consuming the same protein that they were consuming before, just probably at a higher rate. That would be their preferred protein, assuming they can find it on the shelf. Now, consumers know of the benefits of protein, so they're pursuing protein for its nutrient benefits and for its healthy perception, specifically whey. RTMs, like I said, continue to kind of be the most functional space there. So the takeaway is that consumers are using more protein at home out of necessity and out of experience. So the last point I want to talk about briefly is, I double clicked, I apologize. There we go, body composition goals. So another thing we saw in our survey is that consumers' interests have kind of shifted from pre-COVID times to current conditions, with increased value being placed on improving their body composition or improving their metabolism. Now, participants listed diet and cardio as being the major methods to accomplish these goals. So if you pair whey protein with these two intervention methods, you're looking at a pretty strong response. Resistance training is likely reduced at home workouts. There's, as Nikki mentioned again, the home gym hardcore user probably got their hands on the equipment before it sold out or before the price went up, but not everybody has access to the square footage or the available cash to get these goods, or maybe they were slow to the race. But either way, reduced resistance training protein still plays a very functional role for home athletes pursuing diet and exercise. So one thing to keep in mind is that not only can whey protein help with immunity or muscle maintenance, but also satiety. Whey protein isolate is obviously a very, or isolates of any kind, are a very good calorie to protein ratio for those on a caloric deficit or that are monitoring their macronutrient or calorie intake. At least 90% matter, or excuse me, at least 90% on the dry matter basis. Then again, casein macropeptide or glycomacropeptide plays a large role in suppressing ghrelin. Ghrelin is a hormone produced in the pancreas that signals hunger. And so if you can suppress that, you can essentially create satiety, reduce appetite. And if you're in a caloric deficit, that's really, really valuable. So Again, to review, consumers are recognizing proteins, whey proteins for their immune benefit. They are using them at home more consistently, and they're utilizing them for their skeletal muscle and dieting benefits as well. Those are my major takeaways.